J'avais promis de mon jeune âge jamais que de marier. Mais à présent, j'en trouve l'avantage. Tous mes parents, je m'en vais vous quitter. Adieu, la qualité de fille. Adieu, je m'en vais vous quitter. I made a vow when I was young to be wed to not a one. But now I see, and I found a way to leave my home and fly away. Goodbye to my childish ways. Farewell, I'm leaving today. This band of gold I carry near, wrapped around my finger, dear. 'Twas my true love who it to me gave, for with him to spend our days. Adieu to my childish ways. Farewell, I'm leaving today. Here we are around the table, all my friends and my family. Every time now them do I see, from my eyes do flow the tears. Adieu to my childish ways. Farewell, I'm leaving today. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Pa. Fare thee well, my parents sweet. I'm leaving now in regret and pain, but I know I'll see you again. Goodbye to my childish ways. Farewell, I'm leaving today. Adieu, la qualité de fille. Adieu, je m'en vais vous quitter. Thank you. Oh, thank you for all the clapping hands. That's adorable. I love it. And I don't know if there is a directive to not have your video on, but it doesn't bother me. In fact, it's great to see all your smiling faces. Hi, Joan. Thank you all for coming. My name is Robert Sylvain. I'm going to be doing a whole host of old Acadian folk songs like that one. That was called La Qualité de Fille. I wish I could see a show of hands. How many people were a little bit frightened when they heard the first verse in French and thought, oh, I'm not going to understand any of this? Well, that's okay. I'm going to be singing most of these songs in English. They're my English translations of old Acadian folk songs that I got from my meme, Eliza Thibodeau, who wrote down old folk songs in a notebook. And I've made it my life's work to search for the melodies. And I'm happy to say that I've got the first 12 down and translated, and I've got the, I don't know if you can see that, but the sheet music and lyrics all translated, and you can kind of see, here's an example of the original notebook. I've got the photo stats of the original French, and they're a lot of fun. It's been a pleasure and an honor to search these songs out, a real learning experience. So I'll just sing a few of them so you get an idea of what it's about. This one's called Quand je demeurais en ville, which means when I used to hang around the town. When I used to hang around town, I would go wherever girls went. That would often take me around by the sacred convent. There I saw a girl so pretty, dark brown eyes shining at me, cheeks of rose and hair of ebony. She was only 18. One soirée clad la luna on, we took a walk together down a lovely path of greenery, down a path so tender. I won't say she was immodest, but certainly she was a shortest. There we sat beneath an old oak tree. That's when I made a promise. And today that very girl's my wife. My love is even stronger. I love her with the fullness of my life, with a love profunder. Oh, the happiness of marriage. We have got all that we could want. But the youngest of our children all have hair of golden blonde. Oh, pourquoi? All you younger girls who live in town, don't rush out too quickly before you go ahead and settle down. Wait until you're 20, that's the age that all young fillies appreciate most definitely. The happiness of having family, the peace and the tranquility. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, that is a strange little ditty. I understand. I admit that especially in the through the lens of modern woke guy like myself, that gives you a little bit of pause. But it's fun. It's funny, and it makes you wonder, why would my sweet Catholic meme write down a song like that? Well, she was married at the age of 16, and the advice in the end of that song is, young ladies, maybe wait until you're 20 before you settle down. So anyway, that one, I just finished recording with a great set of musicians from all over Maine, including some killer piano by Neil Pearlman and Smokin' Fiddle by Steve Muse. And I can't wait to share it with you all. It's almost ready to, the virus kind of put a little bit of a kibosh on recording sessions. So it's hopefully going to be ready to ship in July. So if you go to robertsylvain.com, you can pre-order it, and I'll send you that, as well as the notebook, the songbook, if you're so inclined. So here's a soft little waltz, a sweet love song called Dis-moi donc. Tell me then, what are you thinking? You who don't think too much of me. It is I who was always clinging to every word that you say to me. I can tell, well, I I've been abandoned. You don't love me like you used to do. So you want then to see my heart break night and day for the love of you. So you want then to see my heart break night and day for the love of you. Yeah, I can see it. I love you more than myself. I can give to you my life, but cannot bear to see another. Don't take your wife. I can see, well, I've been abandoned. You don't love me like you used to do. And then to see my heart break night and day for the love of you. So you want them to see my heart break night and day for the love of you. Very well, then, dear heart, adieu, for I must now abandon you. You have chosen to take another. Don't forget what I gave to you. I can see, well, I've been abandoned. You don't love me like you used to do. So you want them to see my heart break night and day for the love of you. So you want them to see my heart break night and day for the love of you. Merci. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, I'm just gonna go through this this notebook. I'm gonna spare you this one, Je me suis levé, which is awesome, but it's 8 verses a cappella, and it's a bit of a dirge. So you'll have to buy the record to hear that one. I'm gonna do this other one that is also got some, it's a little bit of a sketchy morality play. It's called On Soit Divé. One winter's night by the light of the moon, I had a vision of an angel blonde, and through the snow a child without a chin. She was dressed as though a vagabond. Her eyes of blue betrayed her sorrow. Her hunger was near the grave. I brought her to my humble hollow. Her life I knew that I must save. And seeing that young girl, so pretty and so sweet, oh, will you be my world? I asked her tenderly. Be mine forevermore. There's so much goodness in those. Yes, we will surely wed in the blooming of the roses. She told me of her 18 years of pain. I am too young for you to marry me. I'll stay with me, I told her, Madeline, and for too long you will surely see. Ah, yes, ah, yes, it's you, dear, I adore. With all my heart for you do I find? I'll tell you once and then many more. Oh, tell me yes to ease my mind. In seeing that young girl, so pretty and so sweet, oh, will you be my world? I asked her tenderly. Be mine forevermore. There's so much goodness knows. Oh, we will surely wed in the blooming of the roses. The girl at last consented to my offer, and 6 months later I became her man. I loved her for she was so wise and proper. I loved her so much I was nearly mad. Oh, too much bliss can never stay there. Our happiness did not last long. She passed away in her first labor, my pain eternally in song. At last when spring returns and nature comes to life, I remember wistfully the kisses of my wife, and looking at the child and watching as she grows reminds me of the time of the blooming of the roses. I know, yeah, it's going to take a while for that to sink in. It's a little weird. Yeah, thank you. Here's another complaint, as they say. The complaint is like a lament. It's a French for lament. It's a ballad, a story song, and in Acadian tradition, these songs were often sung a cappella, and they're typically multiple verses, and there's lots of different versions, of course, because they're folk songs, and they were handed down orally through the tradition. I was lucky enough to have my meme write them down, which a lot of matriarchs in French families would do that, write the lyrics down in notebooks. And several archivists from academia, notably Lisa Ornstein from the Archives Acadiennes in Maine, Fort Kent, took field recordings and transcribed them. And so that's how I found a lot of these melodies. And this one, Lisa had already transcribed and put into a newspaper article that she used to write about the Archives Acadiennes. And so she directed me to that, and that's how I found this melody. It's beautiful. And I paired it with a Breton gavotte that I learned from David Surette. And it goes like this. It's called C'est dans la ville de Saint-Charles. It's actually originally saying C'est dans la ville de Paris, but my meme wrote down St. Charles, and that's what they used to do, just, make the songs their own. So c'est dans la ville de Saint-Charles que j'ai rencontré ma blonde. 'Twas in the town of St. Charles. That's where I found my girl. I approached her carefully to ask her if I may have her heart forevermore. if it she would give away. The pretty girl was still too young. She had to answer no. For a pet, she could not marry, not a one, for her parents had told her so. You were right, of course, my dear. You are still young and fair, and you still have time to spare. Take your time and take good care. I have a journey now to make, far away from here. Promise me your love to take, and I'll marry you then, my dear. At last, when I return and come back here to you, to the house of my dear love and that of my best friend too. It's today, the day we wed, 60 years afore, when I found the beauty rare, and still I do love you more. You were right, of course, my dear, and you're still young and fair, and you still have time to spare. Take your time and take good care. Voila. Thank you. Thank you so much. That one gets me a little emotional. It was one of my earliest memories of Meme and Pepe was of their 50th anniversary. And they they pulled up in a horse-drawn carriage that somebody had rented for them. And I remember thinking that was what they drove. But it was, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to go from soft and sweet to soft and grim. This song is one of the few that I got to sort of directly from my father. He remembered the tune when he looked at the notebook. I got the notebook from my Aunt Trudy, who had been hanging on to it. And she was sort of the genealogist and the keeper of the songs for her generation. And when I started singing with Steve Muse and playing Acadian music, she said, "Oh, well, I have all these old Acadian folk songs." And it was really a treasure. But of course, all of the melodies were lost to our family. Meme was gone. But my father remembered this one, and he looked at it. I remember he said, "Oh yeah, Petite Aurora. Da 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 da." A bouncy little melody. I thought, oh. I looked at the lyrics, and it's about a young girl who is tortured by her stepmother within inches of her life. But it has a happy ending. At the end, the little girl dies and goes to heaven to be with her real mother. Isn't that nice? So anyway, so I thought, wow, that melody isn't really appropriate for that grim of a song. So I kept the melody out of respect for the dead, but I changed the I changed the chords to make into a minor key to make it a little more sorrowful. So it's called Petite Aurora. There was once in some part of the world a young girl who so loved the good Lord, and despite all her suffering grace, to the heavens she held her gaze. Her belle-mare, a wretched beldame, made the girl endure torment and harm. Petite Aurora, petite martyr, she never had a true mother dear. Their house would pass for a home. It would seem happy all of the time. The belle-mare would pass for a grande dame. One would never suspect such a crime. She would torture the poor little girl with a red hot iron, the fiend. Petite Aurora, petite martyr, she never had a true mother dear. Not until the child was on her last breath, in great pain, nearly starving to death, the Marat would be there but to scold, with some bread only dressed with lye soap. If you dare to refuse, said the beast, I'll kill you without another thought. Petite Aurora, petite martyr, she never had a true mother dear. After months of affliction and woe, her true mother appeared to her one morn, and foretold of salvation anon, would take her to the sky forevermore. Gracious God knew well when she died, she would search all the angels and find Petite Aurora, petite martyr, she finally found a true mother dear. Thank you. And thank you, Sally and Joan, for the comments. This is actually, very interesting side to the story. I found out later, actually found out from Jeff Omuller down at, when we were playing at Andy's, that he said, oh, here's a song, an old song, the very first country song to sell 1 million records from 1920 or something. And it was the Prisoner's song, the very same melody. And I was completely blown away. Come to find out, that song made its way into a number of different folk songs, French and English, because it was so popular. And then the other little interesting tidbit is that, and I remember my Aunt Trudy saying, oh yeah, that's a true story. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Uh, and it's based on a true story of Aurora Gagnon in Quebec. It was a true crime drama. Anyway, so let's see, how much time do we have? Oh yeah, we've got some time. So I'm going to play this. This is the first song on the record. If you guys are so inclined to pre-order it, I really appreciate that because it helps me with finishing costs. Because of the virus, it was delayed and went over budget, but it's gonna happen. It's happening. Jason Phelps at Acadia Recording is finishing the mix down, and then we should be shipping the record in July. So please go to robertsylvain.com if you're interested, if you like these songs. I've recorded them in French and English. So there's 2 versions of each of these first dozen songs in the notebook. And then you can get the songbook with the translations and sheet music and everything. So this one is a classic Acadian complaint. It's got love, it's got war, it's got a weird little twist at the end, which I've come to associate with Acadian complaints. So I'll just let you decide for yourself what it means. In the morning I arise to the rose of the day, to the chateau of my love, for with her to lay. Are you asleep and dreaming too, Shalonora? If you're asleep and dreaming too, arise, my Shalonora. So the damsel doth awake and dons her lily robe, and thereupon throws wide the door for the one who loves her so. She casts herself into his arms to softly tell, at last it's you, my cherished one, the one that my heart loves so well. Be still and hold, my dear love, you'll make me wilt away. The regiment calls to me, and I must obey. I'm yet engaged for 6 more years, and Orleans. For 6 more years, I'm off to war. Adieu, my Shalonora. 6 years, my dear, 6 more years is far too long a time for which to suffer such torment, to worry and to pine. I'll miss you true out in the fields of toujours plus round, for regret and tears forevermore, the one my heart loves so dear. Hey! Many are the good old boys in this good old town, and surely they'll make love to you while I'm not around. I'll tell you soft from time to time, oh, don't you cry. Don't you cry for your old love, for he by now has surely died. All the boys of the town, they know not what to do. It's always the same tune, the lyrics and always the same tune. It's not like that with you, my dear, oh, not with you. For every time that you return, there is always something new. Voila, thank you. Thank you. So that tune was obviously meant to be sung as a duet with the with a man and woman doing a little dialogue, and at the end, the woman says, "Oh, you're going back to war? What am I going to do? Like 6 years? I can't wait 6 years." And he says, "Oh, don't worry. There's plenty of boys in the town that will make love to you while I'm not around." And she says, "Oh, the boys in the town, they don't know how to make love. It's always the same lyrics and always the same tune." So again, it makes you wonder, like, why did my meme write that down? Well, it says a little bit of something about Acadian culture, I think. But anyway, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to translate these into English, because I'm proud of my Acadian heritage. But and my father's first language was French, but he didn't pass it down to me. French was a liability for him, and so I grew up in an English-speaking world, and I had to recapture my French. But English is my mother tongue. French is my grandmother tongue, and I felt in order to bring these songs to my peers, to my generation of Acadians in the States, of which there are many, most of whom speak English as their first language or their only language. I wanted to translate them into verse so that they could be appreciated for their stories and their twists and turns of phrase. And so I hope I accomplished that. And I hope you enjoy them in French and in English if you get the record. So that's the last Meme's Notebook song I'm going to do. I would like to leave you with an original song that I wrote fairly recently with my friend Steve Muse, who fiddles all over this new record. But this is one that will probably be on a Boreal Tordu record someday. And it's called, it doesn't have a name. That's how new it is. It's called Le Complaint de Sylvain Muse. It started with a story about a man named Sylvain Muse, which is my last name and his last name. And he was a captain of a ship and full of gold, and he made away with the gold. And so there's this old story about that the gold might be hidden in Nova Scotia somewhere. And so we started exploring that story, and I started to realize, oh, this story is about us, but we're not looking for gold. We're looking for something much more valuable. So thank you all for coming. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being such a great audience. So polite and quiet when it's time to be polite and quiet. And I'm sure it's super rough and rowdy. See, I see people clapping. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a blast. Thank you to Susan and Corey and Robin, our host. This is The Complaint de Sylvain Muse. Heading out running from Idaho Bay, sailing straight into the sun. We're on a search for a treasure they say can't be found by just anyone. Long ago lost in that briny ocean tossed, or buried in the forest primeval. We'll follow our stars till we find what is ours. Just give me one thing to believe in. Où est le cachet? Le casse de 5 gallons, rempli avec d'argent qui était volé, qui était volé. We'll sail through the night to Pinckney's Point Light and on to the Ile de Sorette. Through Indian Sluice to La Tête de Mood, a place that we won't soon forget. The people down there are plein de fier, and they know all the stories of old. And when we all sing the joie de vivre that it brings, it's worth more than a barrel of gold. Où est le cachet, casque de 5 gallons, rempli avec d'argent, qui était volé, qui était volé. Like the coureurs de bois and the pêcheurs de la mer, like the chasseurs de chasse-galerie. We're all voyageurs just traveling through life, looking for love and sweet memory. And when we're all gone, they'll be singing our songs, and maybe someday they will find a map or a key that will help them seek the treasures that we left behind. Où est le cachet, casque de 5 gallons, rempli avec d'argent, qui était volé.